One of the issues I've been having on my allotment is that we've got a mole. So in today's video, we've been looking at the, let me get the voice right, man versus mole, epic allotment showdown. The issue that we've been having is that this resident mole comes all along these paths, and as you see, it just digs up mounds of earth in the paths. And when you walk along here, it's like walking on sponge, because every time you step down, the soil gives in and goes down in the paths. So it makes the paths really spongy. The other issue that we've been having is when we go to plant stuff, we try and put a spade or a shovel into the actual ground, and then the whole earth underneath the bed collapses in like a mini sinkhole, where they've got a tunnel underneath and they've sort of got rid of the structure underneath. So as soon as you break the surface, all that soil just falls straight down. And we've also had the issue where we put plants in, we come back the next day to find them just hoiked out onto the ground. Now we know it's not the birds because those beds have got covers on them. So it's actually given the moles are actually coming along. We've obviously planted over the top of one of their runs. They've objected to the fact that there's a plant in the way, and then they've pushed that out of the way. So that is the issues that we've been having. So first things we need to do is talk about what we're up against. Now the first thing in any battle is to understand your enemy, understand your opponent. Now moles, there's 35 to 40 million of them in the UK. That's like one for every 2 people. But most people wouldn't, unlikely to ever see one in their lifetime. They predominantly live underground all year round, mostly active during the early mornings or late evenings. But you all know you've got them because you obviously see those molehills coming up and around. Now they have notoriously bad eyesight. They're not blind as most people think they are. They've got very small eyes, so obviously when they're underground all the time they don't need them. But they can detect light and shade and things like that. Now obviously they've got the big claws for digging, and they can do quite extensive excavations, which is what you see when you see the molehills up and around. So one of the things that they rely on mostly is their sense of smell and their sort of hearing and their sense of vibration in the soil to actually hunt. So most of the forms of attack cater for those types of things. So let's talk about how we're going to go about getting rid of these. Now here in the UK we have particular rules around wildlife, and especially causing cruelty to wildlife. So although there are many methods on the internet and people's advice about using exhaust fumes from generators to gas them out, or using, wait until they start digging up a molehill and getting your fork and jabbing them. And then also there's various mole traps and gopher trap devices you can put down in their tunnels, which when they come across them, they've really had the worst day ever. But here we're just looking to move it on somewhere else, not actually looking to terminate it in any cruel way. So we looked around and asked around what were people's best methods, and so they fall into 3 basic different categories. First person you ask, well, I'll tell you what, the only way to get rid of a mole is to get some sticks. Get some sticks, put them in their runs, and if you put them in their runs, then they'll actually not use those runs anymore, they'll go elsewhere. So that's method 1, putting sticks into runs. You ask somebody else, they go, oh no, only way to get rid of a mole is you to smell them out. You need to get an orange, or some garlic powder. Put that down in their runs, they'll go running a mile they will. So that's method 2, assault on their senses. And the third one is to use, people come across and say, nah, anyway I've managed to get rid of a mole using ultrasonic devices. So let's off a high-pitched whistle so that they'll actually go running away. So working with those 3 methods, for the last few weeks we've been giving it a go. We've been identifying their runs and where they're going. It's quite easy to identify the runs because you can actually see, if you stamp down on any of the little molehills or the earth that comes up, they'll actually, if it's an active run, they'll end up re-clearing it and putting the stuff back out. So we've been going around, putting these sticks in at set intervals along those runs to try and discourage them. And that's the one thing we've done first of all. We've then got down near the runs, dug down into where one of their runs is, peeled an orange, got some garlic powder, and we've been putting that in there as well. So gives them a nice assault on their senses with some orange and some garlic. And lastly, we've been using some of these ultrasonic scarers. Now these are ones where they're just solar powered and they let off a high-pitched whistle like this. And it does that like every minute. Now, it's annoying enough for me, so it must be annoying the mole. Most definitely really annoying. As I say, the other methods of putting sticks in and putting orange and garlic down don't really affect me, but these going off around the plot when you're working on the plot, I don't like it. I'm guessing the mole doesn't either. We've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. Stakes, orange and garlic, and the ultrasonic devices on, even though they are really annoying. And how have we got on? Well, let's put it this way. If disappointment was an Olympic sport, we'd be looking for a podium finish. Because now all of those methods do have an effect because we use them in different areas, and each one move the mole on and stop using that active run. But all that's actually ended up doing is because that run's not active, they just create another one. So where we had mole hills coming up on one pathway and nothing on the other, as soon as we started treating that pathway, they then moved over to another one. So we then started treating that one, and then they moved from the bottom plot and started moving up towards the top plot. So it's a continuous sort of battle. Every time, although each one of those methods, the ultrasonic things and the stakes and the orange, all work to actually deter a mole and get rid of a mole, that really needs to be territorial, and actually all they end up doing is at the moment is just moving to a different part of the plot and actually digging out that. Now we could just carry on doing that until we drive them off the whole plot with buzzers and peel and sticks absolutely everywhere. But I think what we're going to do now is we're going to call a truce. I don't like the buzzers. They do disrupt some of the plants. They are obviously eating some of the worms. So I mean, there were cons and pros for having moles. Obviously the cons are that they're digging everything up, they undermine plants and cause poor root development on them. Despite what people might say, they don't eat plants, they just disturb the roots, which means they poor growth. They do eat some of the worms and bits, but they also eat, on the pro side, they're also eating some of the other less beneficial bugs like the leather jackets and carrot fly larvae and other bugs and grubs that are in the ground. And the issue that we're always going to have is that moles love nice, fluffy soil that's easy to dig through, that's nice and fertile and full of worms, and you can see the conflict there. That's exactly what we've been spending the last 5 or 10 years developing in our vegetable plots. That exact combination of soil that the moles love. And the chances are that if we do drive this mole off the plot completely, it's going to move on to a neighbouring plot, or it's actually just going to leave the burrows empty, which will mean another mole will just come along at some point and find those burrows and re-inhabit them. So we've decided that after all our time and effort, we're going to live with them. Now, there's a bit of disruption on the path, which isn't a major issue, and I think when we find we're digging into a bed and we find that there's a mole run underneath it, what we do, it's not a big issue for us to actually just reposition a plant 6 inches further over so it avoids the run, and then it can carry on growing there, and we'll just let them have, basically by allowing them to maintain their existing runs, hoping that they won't end up thinking that actually I need to grow a whole new set of runs, because at the moment we're tearing them from one part of the plot. Is all we're doing is they're creating runs in one place, they're then leaving those runs alone because of the smell and the sounds and everything else, and they're just creating new runs elsewhere. So hopefully by leaving them as they are, we're just going to cope with it. So for the time being, it's a truce with the mole, and we're just going to have to live with him, and he's just going to live with us. Until next time, cheerio.